Morning, everyone. If folks on the on Zoom can see me, can you give me a Gigamaggie thumbs up here? And then now hook 'em horns. All right, thank you. Wait, some of you didn't do that. Good morning, and I welcome everyone who's present and who is present remotely. The time is currently 10:01, and I am calling the meeting to order. With our agenda posting, we invited members of the public to view a broadcast of this executive committee meeting, which is live at www.youtube.com/State Bar of Texas. We also provided instructions on how to sign up to speak at today's meeting. Signups to speak remotely were available until 5 p.m. Central yesterday. Members of the public will speak under agenda item number 3, and those members of the public joining remotely will remain in the Zoom waiting room until it is their turn to speak. Please note that this meeting will be recorded and the recording will be made available to the public. And with that, Executive Director Trey Apfel, I will call upon to call roll.
Thank you, Mr. President. Director Bench.
Here.
Judge Bullard.
Here.
Director Cantu.
Here.
Director Cochran.
Here.
Director Harrison.
Here.
Director Hill.
Here.
Director Huddleston.
Here.
Senior Justice Lehrman will be joining us shortly. Director Masri.
Here.
Director Morales.
Here.
Director Pratt.
Here.
Director Quadros.
Here.
Director Sloan.
Here.
Director Stafford. Director Tisdale.
Here,
Here.
Stafford.
Okay, and Director Tisdale.
Here.
Director Tobin.
Here.
Director Vargas.
Here.
Director Wooten.
Here.
Justice Young. Here. Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. At this time, we would like to welcome any members of the public who have signed up to speak. Have we had any sign up to speak? All right, then being none, I will move past that portion. During the remainder of the meeting, if there are any board members or staff who wish to speak, then I ask that you please approach the podium or so indicate if you are participating remotely, and I will let you know when it's your turn to speak. And at this point, we will go ahead and hear from Executive Director Apfel again with his report.
Thank you and good morning, directors. I want to bring to you an update on State Bar happenings, beginning first with the upcoming 2025 State Bar annual meeting. We'll be in San Antonio this year, meeting at the JW Marriott San Antonio Hill Country, and that will be June 19 and 20. Lamont Jefferson, Crystal Thompson, and Marty Truce are serving as co-chairs of this year's annual meeting committee. And right now, the committee is working on fundraising for the annual meeting, as well as the selection of keynote speakers. And if you or your firm is not interested in a sponsorship, there is a handout in your materials in Board Effect that lists the different law firm and corporate sponsorship levels. Next on the update is an update on VLEX FastCase. Since 2014, FastCase legal research has been one of the most important benefits that we have had available to provide for our membership of the State Bar, offering free access to Texas cases, statutes, and regulations. In 2023, FastCase merged with VLEX. VLEX is a global legal intelligence company, and in December of 2024, the State Bar of Texas launched VLEX FastCase. This is an upgrade to the legal research program, offering the same core services for free with some notable and major improvements. The improved VLEX FastCase service provides free access to an extensive primary law collection, and this includes case law, statutes, regulations, and constitutions. Texas materials specifically are very well represented with a complete collection of Texas case law, including statutes, the Constitution, Attorney General opinions, administrative codes, and court rules. In addition to the primary law feature, members also have access to a rich selection of treatises, practice guides, legal forms, and other secondary sources. Texas-specific guides also cover areas of the law such as civil procedure, foreclosure law, legal malpractice, and trust and estate practice. National materials are available on bankruptcy, employment law, and intellectual property, providing both analysis and in-depth practical guidance. A key feature of the new upgrade is the new CERT, as in C-E-R-T, citator. And what this feature does is flag negative treatment and other citing references to a case. CERT is an improvement over Fast Case's previous citation service that went by the name of Bad Law Bot, with more extensive coverage and more types of negative treatment. The real advantage of CERT is in the review by editorial experts that was missing in Bad Law Bot. So they've upped their game in that regard. The new version also includes skills from, get this, Vincent AI. That's right, it's got a name. This is VLEX's AI research assistant. State Bar members have free access to automated head notes, case summaries, and the ability to find similar legal materials using Vincent. Additional skills such as answering legal research questions, drafting arguments, running 50 state surveys, and generating next steps from legal documents are all available with a subscription to the service. We've been educating our membership about this upgrade through both email marketing and informational webinars, and we will continue to spread the word about all of these new features. On the Texas Bar CLE front, in November of 2024, Texas Bar CLE launched its new website. This site is designed to enhance user experience, increase operational efficiency, and provide our lawyers with the tools they need to effortlessly access quality CLE content. Key features of the new website include, first, user-friendly interface. Navigation has been simplified, making it more easier than ever for customers to find and access the services they need. There is now streamlined registration. All course listings, whether live, on-demand video, or webcast, now include direct registration links, allowing customers to select and register for their preferred format seamlessly. Also, there's an improved online benefits access. Customers can now view their free online benefits such as online demand videos, course books, articles, and presentation slides on a single, easily accessible page. And then lastly, what I want to focus on is the enhanced search functionality on the new website. The online classroom search field now incorporates transcripts from online classes. By entering keywords, customers can instantly locate relevant transcript sections with highlighted results, which saves time and obviously improves accessibility. We believe all of these improvements will significantly enhance the overall user experience and further solidify Texas Bar CLE's position as a leader in continuing legal education. And then the last thing that I want to bring to your attention is a feature we run in the Texas Bar Journal every December. And I hope you were able to see it, but each December we publish our By the Numbers report. And this reflects results and outcomes from State Bar core services for the prior bar year. And this is done in compliance with the State Bar Act, which requires the State Bar to adopt a strategic plan every 2 years that includes both measurable goals and a system of performance measures, and to report the outcomes of these performance measures. The December 2024 issue of TBJ features the report for the 23-24 bar year. I encourage you to read the entire report because it's very comprehensive, and it provides an impressive overview of state bar operations. The report measures everything from social media metrics to the number of grievances filed and resolved. I'll mention just a few statistics here that I want to highlight. With regard to service to the public, for example, we highlight that the State Bar distributed nearly 30,000 printed pamphlets regarding legal issues of interest to the public, and the free legal resources homepage at texasbar.com received nearly 25,000 page views. The law-related education department that we're all so proud of conducted 99 teacher training sessions. Those training sessions reached nearly 2,300 teachers. And then the number of students taught by LRE trained teachers was nearly 229,000 students. Under service to members, we had 47 benefits that were offered through the State Bar Member Benefits Program, including lawyer-specific programs, financial services, business travel discounts, office supplies, and health insurance, all designed to improve the quality of legal services. And then our Texas Lawyers Assistance Program handled nearly 1,000 consultations related to mental health, substance use, or cognitive issues affecting Texas lawyers, judges, and law students. Lastly, Texas Bar CLE provided more than 500 scholarships for State Bar members to attend its courses. In addition, Texas Bar CLE's free online classes had more than 43,000 registrants. So the By the Numbers report also covers metrics for protection of the public, access to justice, sound administration and resources, and financial management. And I commend it to you for reading in the December TBJ or online at texasbar.com/performance measures numbers. And then speaking of access to justice, my upcoming column in the February TBJ will highlight many of the ways that Texas lawyers are leading the way in addressing the unmet civil legal needs of low-income Texans. The column will also encourage our members to report their pro bono hours on their My Bar page, a simplified process that we now have in place so we can more accurately measure the effort of our Texas lawyers in the access to justice area. And Mr. President, with that completes my report.
Thank you, Executive Director Apple. Do we have any comments or questions from directors before we move on with the agenda? Hearing none, then the next item on our agenda is to move on to the President's report, which I will deliver. Three things really I want to talk about. The first is a brief overview of the events and activities I've participated in or attended since our last board meeting. I will not do this at the board meeting. As I did last time at the upcoming board meeting, instead of going through a lengthy list of the events I've been to, I will instead focus on those events where I had an opportunity to see and fellowship with other members of the board of directors, to encourage all of us to remember our role, most importantly, in service to the profession, is what we do between our board meetings, where we live and work. And you have my thanks, our thanks for all that you do. But here in the executive committee for this group, I will go ahead and run briefly through some of those events. After that, I want to talk a little bit about the CLE that we're going to offer in conjunction with our upcoming board meeting. And finally, talk about one of my initiatives, which has been website design for the State Bar's website, and talk a little bit about that. So let me circle back to activities. I've had the opportunity to speak to and with a number of local bars since the State Bar's last board meeting, including in Kendall County, in Smith County, in Brazos County, in Webb County, and next week it's up to Nacogdoches County to speak to the local bar there. I've had the opportunity to speak to the paralegal division of the paralegal division of the State Bar, to attend and participate in the African American Lawyers Section annual event. I've provided remarks at a number of other events, including the Texas Minority Council Program, the Computer and Technology Sections, Technology and Justice for All, CLE, a number of investitures that I participated in, 2 this week for the 3rd Court and 15th Court of Appeals. And I provided remarks yesterday in the House Chamber in connection with the inaugural investiture of the 15th Court of Appeals. I have provided remarks at the new lawyer induction ceremony here in Austin in October, remarks at the TYLA's last board meeting in San Antonio in November, and I'll be attending that tomorrow and Saturday as well. In addition, I attended the HBA's Big Harvest, the Houston Bar's Big Harvest celebration at the River Oaks Country Club, the Texas Access to Justice Foundation's luncheon honoring Chief Justice Hecht, the ALM Legal and Business Awards in Dallas at the Arts District Mansion, the 2 of the local Hispanic Bar Association events, the Dallas Hispanic Bar and the Hispanic Bar of Austin, their annual events in Dallas and Austin, the Texas Appleseed Dinner in Austin, the Federal Bar Association Southern District's annual dinner in Houston, the Texas General Counsel Forum annual dinner in San Antonio, the Texas Rio Grande Legal Aid's annual dinner in San Antonio as well. And I may have left 1 or 2 off. It's been a busy quarter, but it's been a pleasure to do that, to fly the flag for the State Bar, and to be able to engage in fellowship with so many members of our profession all over the state. A little bit about the upcoming CLE for our next board meeting, which will be held here in January. We're going to focus on the solo and small firm, as we do for our CLE. And it has been a tradition of providing this free CLE seminar the day before our quarterly board meetings in whatever local city that we're meeting in. And it's entitled Updates for Solo Practitioners and Small Firms seminar will take place from 2 to 4:30 on Thursday, January 23rd, here at the Texas Law Center. The topics will include a State Bar update, updates on family law, criminal law, employment law, and an update on artificial intelligence. I do want to go ahead and recognize and thank Directors Brittany Harrison, Allison Martinez, Lawrence Morales, along with Joshua Weaver, who will all be joining me as speakers at this CLE event. And finally, a little bit about website design. One of my goals has been to help the State Bar make the website more user-friendly. And I'm pleased to report that the staff is moving forward with a website redesign project to improve the site for our members and for the public at large. The State Bar has issued requests for proposal from vendors to help redesign the site, and we hope to have a vendor in place by February, and with the work, of course, proceeding from there. The primary goals of the project are to make the site as user-friendly as possible and to organize content so that it's easy to find, easy to access for any user, be they a lawyer or not. And I'll continue to update both this committee and the board as the project progresses. With that, let me pause. Are there any questions or comments from anyone regarding my report? Then with that, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which I believe is to discuss and approve the minutes of the September 5th, 2024 Executive Committee meeting. And as we move to this phase, let me remind the committee that any directors who wish to either move or second a motion, particularly given the format of this meeting, I ask that you please state your name in connection with moving or seconding any motion. And if there's any discussion, I will call for discussion. And any directors, if you are voting in favor of something, please audibly say aye. And if you were opposed, please say nay. And with that, I will need a motion and a second to approve the September 5, 2024 minutes.
So moved.
Laura Pratt with the motion.
Second, Forrest Huddleston.
All right. Thank you, Director Huddleston. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion regarding the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. The motion carries. Thank you. And with that, next up is a report from the Chair of the Board, Paul Stafford. I yield.
Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you, all of you, for participating in the EC meeting today. I know that it's under a little bit of a trying circumstance, but appreciate your commitment. My report is brief. In regards to communications, at the January board meeting, I'll remind the directors to continue to communicate with their constituents by presenting state bar updates in their districts. Your constituents want and deserve to know what's going on at the statewide level, and as directors, you're best suited to provide that information to them. There are 2 CLEs accredited that are 1 hour for a little bit more comprehensive update of state bar operations, and then another one that's a half hour is primarily covering member benefits. The other main issue I wanted to cover was the board chair race. The deadline is passed for second-year directors to submit letters of intent to run for next year's chair of the board, and we have received letters of intent from 6 candidates: Brittany Harrison of Dallas, Chrissy Castle of Dallas, Michael Wynn of Houston, Rosalind Perez of Victoria, Rudy Mateer of Austin, and Shannon Quadros of Houston. The candidates are going to be announced at the January board meeting on the 24th of January, and they'll each have an opportunity to make comments to the board. Also, at the January board meeting, the board is going to consider and approve the method of voting for the chair election at the April meeting, and that would be voting by show of hands or voting by written ballot. And with that, Mr. President, I end my report unless there are any questions.
Thank you, Chair Stafford. Are there any questions or comments from the directors regarding Chair Stafford's report? All right, hearing none. Next up, then we will hear from President-elect Santos Vargas.
Good morning, everyone. We have in my report quite a bit of information on the budget level to get through this morning. So we're going to go ahead and jump directly into that. If you haven't already logged into BoardEffect, please do so because you'll need to refer to some of these budget materials in the board packet. So when you log into BoardEffect, or if you're already logged in, please turn to tab 7 of your materials. So let's start off talking about what the budget committee's been up to for the last few months. The budget committee met on December 17th to review the proposed budget for fiscal year 25-26, which takes effect on June 1st, 2025 through May 31st, 2026. After hearing from representatives of the state bar divisions and departments, and after committee discussion, the committee approved the fiscal year 25-26 budget as it was presented. A 5-page copy of the proposed budget is included in your executive committee packet at tab 7 in BoardEffect. If approved by the executive committee today and the board at the January meeting, the proposed budget as presented in your packet will be published in the March 2025 issue of the Texas Bar Journal. So let's talk through a few of the budget highlights, and you can kind of follow along in your materials. Some of the highlights of the proposed general fund budget are as follows. The general fund revenues are expected to increase by $3.4 million, or 7.4%, bringing total general fund revenues to $50.3 million. The proposed budget includes a 10% increase in attorney membership dues rates as authorized by statute and approved by the Board of Directors in April of 2024 and the Supreme Court in May of 2024. The dues increase accounts for more than $2.1 million of our estimated revenue growth in the budget. And without the dues increase, revenues would have grown by 2.7% or $1.3 million, which is slightly better than had previously been estimated. The general fund operating expenditures and transfers are expected to increase by $1.5 million or 3.1%, bringing total general fund operating expenses to $50.6 million. That's a 3.1% increase from the prior year's adopted budget. This is about $100,000 more than projected in May of 2024. Total salaries and benefits represent about 59% of the total operating expenditure of the general fund, and the salary and benefits budget is 5.1% higher than the salary and benefits budget for the 24-25 fiscal year. The State Bar is budgeting for a deficit of $266,523 with the 10% dues increase. This is slightly better than what was projected back in May of 2024. The deficit will be funded from transfers from reserves that have been previously assigned to cover projected budget deficits. Just a little more context on that issue. The Bar had previously anticipated a budgeted deficit of approximately $927,929 in May of 2024. Other fund types besides the general fund that are included within the total proposed combined budget, and many of these funds are either self-funded or receive transfers from the general fund. So most of my discussion really focuses on the general fund. The Budget Committee reviewed and discussed all major budgets in December, including non-general funds of the Bar. So let's talk about what we're proposing to designate from the available funds. As part of the budget process, the Budget Committee, at the recommendation of the Audit and Finance Committee, proposes designations of the available funds from the prior year. The total amount of available funds for fiscal year 25-26's budget is $4,803,950. This amount equals the general fund's net excess as presented in the fiscal year 23-24 audited financial report. After hearing from the Executive Director and the State Bar staff, the Budget Committee will recommend that the board designate the available funds in the following manner. And just remember, your packet includes a summary write-up of the recommended designations, and it's in a portion of tab 7 that's titled Designation of Fund Balance if you want to follow along. We're recommending that the board designate $1,300,446 as a transfer to reserves. Of this, $775,536 is designated to increase the level of minimum reserves to $13.5 million or 3.2 months of operating expenditures. And $524,910 is designated to assist in covering projected budget deficits, bringing the total assigned for this purpose to almost $8 million. These funds are projected to cover budgetary shortfalls for the next 3.5 years, or about half of the fiscal year 2029-2030. We're also recommending that the board commit $1,500,000 for the building fund. These funds are needed for the anticipated cost to develop the 1415 Lavaca building into an education and conference center. And so some of the anticipated costs include building and construction planning, permits, and fundraising campaign costs. Funds will be raised to offset the initial investment in the Lavaca building construction. As we've stated before, our intent is that no dues will be used for construction of the building. Available funding for the 14-15 Lavaca project will be approximately $3.5 million at the beginning of the year, and the funds reserved to maintain the infrastructure of the Law Center are estimated to be $6.7 million, or approximately 87% of the Law Center asset replacement and renewal costs. Next, we're recommending that the board commit $1 million to the State Bar's Technology Fund. This commitment will bring the State Bar's reserves to maintain its information technology infrastructure to an estimated $4,030,283 for the budget year, or 90% of IT assets replacement and renewal costs. Several IT projects are currently underway or planned for the coming years, which the Technology Fund will fund. We're also recommending that the board commit $1,030,504 for the following purposes: committing $608,983 to replenish the legal reserve account. This commitment will reserve funds for payments to outside legal counsel as needed, bringing the total reserve to $1 million. And if it's not used, those funds will be carried forward each year. And also committing $300,000 to establish new programs reserve. This commitment will establish a reserve for unanticipated new program funding requests during the year. And again, if these are not used, they'll be carried forward to the next year. Other smaller commitments totaling about $94,000 are recommended and also included in your materials. The Budget Committee will meet again in the coming months to review the State Bar's financial trends, the projections, and the long-term budget needs. And so in a minute, I'm going to go ahead and proceed with the motion to approve the budget unless anyone has any questions. Any questions?
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate that, President-elect Vargas. If there are no questions and comments, we are going to move to the action item in connection with President-elect Vargas's report. And that action item is to consider and discuss recommendations of board approval for the State Bar's 2025-26 proposed budget for publication in the Texas Bar Journal. Then I will yield President-elect Vargas for you to make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, on behalf of the Budget Committee, I move that the State Bar's proposed fiscal year 25-26 budget be approved for presentation to the board and for publication in the March 2025 issue of the Texas Bar Journal.
Thank you very much. Coming from the Budget Committee, no second is required in connection with the motion that was just given. Is there any discussion before we move to a vote? It looks like Director Sloan may have his hand up or finger up.
Sorry, I didn't intend to.
Okay. All right, hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Would all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
There are any opposed, please say nay. Thank you very much, committee members. Next up, we will receive a report from the immediate past president of the State Bar, Cindy Tisdale.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Benish. Good morning, everyone. I am tucked away. It's actually snowing. I don't know if you can see the white pretty heavily up here. So I'm thankful that I get to do this and not be on the road. So just a little bit about what I've been up to, not nearly as busy as President Benish or President-elect Vargas. But on behalf of President Benish, on October the 12th, I had the honor and privilege of presenting a State Bar Presidential Commendation to Judge L. Clifford Davis during his 100th birthday celebration here in Fort Worth. The commendation celebrated Judge Davis's lifelong dedication to public service and integrity in the law. Judge Davis, if you don't know, is the oldest living African-American attorney in Texas and has been licensed in Texas for more than 70 years. As you know, Judge Davis is well known and widely admired for his work as a judge and as an attorney, and he was named as a Texas legal legend by the litigation section in April 2024. Among his many accomplishments as a lawyer, and there are many, he assisted Attorney Thurgood Marshall of the NAACP on the 1954 case that became Brown versus Board of Education, the landmark U.S. Supreme Court case, of course, that ruled that state laws establishing racial segregation in public schools are unconstitutional. So he has a long list of service, and it was my honor to stand in for President Benish to give him that presidential commendation. Next, just an update on BetterHelp. As you all remember, on May 1st, the State Bar started providing all Texas lawyers access to counseling through BetterHelp with 1 month of free online mental health therapy and then discounted therapy thereafter. This therapy benefit provides our members, of course, with additional tools to help improve their performance, deal with the grief, anxiety, depression, and other common mental health issues that we deal with on a daily basis and that impact our ability to serve our clients. We continue to see growth in this program, and I'm so excited about this. Our latest statistics as of January 3rd, 2025, 426 members have signed up for therapy, 1,553 live sessions have been held, and our members have rated their overall satisfaction with BetterHelp at 4.6 out of 5. I'm very excited about those numbers, and I'm very thankful to the State Bar staff for getting this set up. Members can find the discount code for this therapy by visiting texasbar.com/BetterHelp. And Mr. President, that concludes my report.
Past President Tisdale's report. All right, thank you very much. I did want to remind the directors that while Cindy Tisdale was president of the bar, she selected Judge Davis to be honored at one of our quarterly board meetings. So I thought it was heartwarming and appropriate that Cindy Tisdale be the one to honor him in the way that was just described. And thank you so much for making yourself willing and available to do that. Speaking of those who have served the profession a long time, I did want to let folks know that at the investiture of the 15th Court of Appeals yesterday, former Texas Supreme Court Justice Ruby Sondock, when it was in attendance, who is 98 years old and made the trip through inclement weather from Houston to be at the investiture yesterday, and she'll turn 99 in April. They are both rich blessings upon our profession. Now, at this point, we will hear from immediate past Chair Kenan Wooten on behalf of the Nominations and Elections Subcommittee.
Thank you, President Benish. Good morning, everybody. As many of you know, the Nominations and Elections Subcommittee began the nomination search process back in September of 2024 in order to identify attorneys who may be interested in interviewing to be president-elect candidates. As a reminder, this is a small county year for candidates, and that means that we looked at potential nominees from any county in the state except for the 5 metropolitan counties, which are Bexar, Dallas, Harris, Tarrant, and Travis. The subcommittee met on November 14th, and in that meeting, we discussed potential candidates and other matters pertaining to the candidacy and election processes coming up. The State Bar also published a call for nominations in the Texas Bar Journal and through online platforms. Additionally, the State Bar sent notices to all committee sections and local bars about the opportunity. During this time, we also spoke with a number of people in order to assess their interest in being considered for an interview. Ultimately, after that whole process, we ended up with a list of 5 individuals, 5 attorneys, who had agreed to be considered and participate in the interview process with the Nominations and Elections Subcommittee. On December 13th, we conducted interviews at the Texas Law Center. It was a strong, impressive group of potential nominees. Each of them would do a wonderful job as president-elect. I think I can say on behalf of the subcommittee that we're really fortunate to have that type of interest from lawyers who are so well qualified for the position. We had a lot of deliberation about the individuals who interviewed and ultimately voted to select Deborah L. Cardova of Edinburgh and G. David Smith of Rockwall. Their bios and their interest letters are included in the executive committee packet under the nominations committee section so that you can go there and learn more about them if you need to. We're really pleased to have both of these individuals, both dynamic individuals, to recommend to the board as candidates for president-elect. Both of them bring a tremendous amount of experience and service to lawyers and the bar, and we believe they're going to run a great campaign this year. So with that, I have the following action item to present to the executive committee. On behalf of the Nominations and Elections Subcommittee, I make a motion that the Executive Committee approve the recommendation of Deborah L. Cardova of Edinburgh and G. David Smith of Rockwall as the nominees for the 2025-2026 State Bar of Texas President-elect candidacy.
Thank you very much, immediate past Chair Wooten. Coming from the Nominations and Elections Subcommittee, that motion requires no second. So let me open that motion up for any questions or discussion by this committee. Hearing none, we will move to a vote. All directors in favor of the motion just received, please indicate by saying aye.
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 And any opposed, please say nay. Thank you very much. Good report. Thank you very much, Kenan. With this, we'll go ahead and hear from the chair of the policy.
President Benish, I'm sorry, I have two more quick things to convey, if that's all right with you.
Oh, absolutely. My apologies.
No, thank you very much for the additional time. One, I want the executive committee to know that to reduce costs moving forward, the plan is to proceed with electronic voting only for this 2025 election of the next State Bar president-elect. The State Bar will send emails and mail a postcard to all members of the State Bar that's going to include a reminder about voting. The emails and the postcard will include a link that takes individuals directly to the elections page that includes information about the State Bar and TYLA president-elect candidates and director positions. Finally, I just want to give a quick reminder that our elected directors who have a term ending in June 2025 are encouraged to please contact constituents and/or colleagues who may be willing and able to serve on the board and find out if they want to run for your position. The district chart can be found at texasbar.com/elections. And with that, President Benish, I am officially done. Thank you for the additional time.
Feel free to chime in anytime. I apologize that I moved right past your action items, Kenan. Incidentally, I will see both of the candidates tomorrow at the TYLA meeting in College Station. They'll be addressing the TYLA board then. And yes, I will be in College Station and not in Dallas to watch Texas play in the Cotton Bowl. And so that will either go really well or otherwise. We'll see. And with that, we will next hear from the chair of the Policy Manual Subcommittee, Director and fellow Hays County resident, Matthew Hill.
Good morning, Mr. President, Chair Stafford, my fellow directors, and our incredible State Bar staff. I want to apologize real quickly for my unprofessional attire today. I broke 3 ribs attempting to ski as a 44-year-old over Christmas, so I appreciate not having to drive to Austin today and also not having to wear a suit so I can stay at home in a pullover. So with that, as you all know, Texas Bar CLE speakers generously volunteer their time to write and speak at Texas Bar CLE seminars. Board policy currently allows for reimbursement for meals up to $40 a day, and that number has not been changed since the mid-'80s. The CLE committee and the board policy manual committee have both approved a request from the staff that the cap be increased to $60 per day. So with that, on behalf of the policy manual subcommittee, I'd like to make a motion for the approval of increasing the CLE speaker meal reimbursement maximum in section 7.03.08 C3 from $40 to $60 per day.
All right, thank you very much, Director Hill. We have received that motion for approval of increasing the CLE speaker and reimbursement maximum. It's coming from the Policy Manual Subcommittee, and therefore it requires no second. And so let me open that up for any discussion or questions from committee members. Hearing none, we will move to a vote. All directors in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 And any opposed by saying nay. All right, the motion carries. Thank you very much, Director Hill. And no sweat on the North Face fleece. You are in a single breath, both the most comfortable and uncomfortable of the attendees today. And we wish you a swift recovery. With that, we will move to Director Forrest Huddleston, who will provide a report as chair of the Audit and Finance Committee.
Thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. I almost ran to get a blazer, so I also didn't have to apologize for not being in professional attire, but here we are. On a serious note, sorry to hear about your ribs, Director Hill, and I hope you have a speedy recovery. Today, I'll be discussing the State Bar's financials and its performance during the first 5 months of the year. Just a reminder to everybody, we have a fiscal year end of May 31st, which means October month end represents the first 5 months of the year, which is the period of time that we'll be going over today. After I go through that, I'll take us through a few quick high points on how both the internal and external audits have progressed. So I'll start by saying your executive committee packet contains the full financial statements and dashboard. The financials contain further details on the State Bar's financial position 5 months into the fiscal year 2025, which ends May of 2025. But at a high level, the State Bar's financial results are better than planned. And let me give you guys a few quick additional details here. So as of October 31st, 2024, the general fund had a net excess of revenues over expenditures and transfers of about 102,000. This is compared to a budgeted net deficit of about 1.4 million, which is why I say that State Bar's financial results so far during the year are better than planned. This resulted in an overall positive variance of about 1.5 million for the first 5 months of the year. In reviewing the actual revenues over expenditures for this period compared with the previous 3 years, the State Bar continues to see a leveling of revenue growth compared to a steady increase in expenditure growth, which is evident by the State Bar's net income of only about 102,000 for the first 5 months. November's financial statements will be presented to the board with results and trends similar to October's. The total general fund revenues for the period exceeded the budgeted revenues by about 819,000. No surprise here, the main positive revenue variances were from investment income and Texas Bar CLE revenues exceeding budgeted revenues. So pretty consistent with what I've gone over the past couple of quarters. The total general fund expenditures were also less than the budgeted expenditures by about 667,000. The positive expenditure variance is primarily from savings from the Texas Bar CLE in the category of meetings and conferences, and a couple of other smaller positive variances in different categories. So that's the first 5 months of the year financials. Really quick on the internal audits for fiscal year 2025. Quick reminder to everybody that our internal auditors provide independent.
Director Huddleston, I'm sorry,
Yes.
very quickly, may I pause for a moment here before you move on to the internal audits, just to see if anybody has any questions or comments about the financial reports or the general review of financial statements. Just wanted to try to carve this up into bite-sized chunks, if that's okay.
Sure, yeah, no problem at all.
Anybody, anything about the financial reports or the general review of financial statements just mentioned by Director Huddleston? Okay, with that, I interrupted you. You were moving on to an update on the internal audits.
Yeah, no worries at all.
Thank
So where I was going was internal auditors are the ones who provide independent assurance and consulting services to our organization's governing body, which is designed to add value and improve its operations. The internal auditors review the State Bar's significant processes and compliance areas to ensure that controls are in place and objectives are met. So this will sound familiar to you guys. I've given you this update a couple of times at this point, but as part of the 5-year internal audit plan, the audits scheduled for the current year were for the IT division, the Public Fund Investment Act's investments compliance, and then an advisory review of the HR department as well. Our auditors are currently in the reporting phase of these audits and will present the final results to the Audit and Finance Committee and then the Board of Directors in April. We expect positive results from that as we normally do. So President Benish, I'm open to questions if there are questions on the internal audit. Otherwise, happy to go to the external financial audit real quickly.
Thank you very much, Director Huddleston. Let's do pause for a moment and see if any of the committee members have any comments about the update on the internal audits just provided by Director Huddleston. Okay, hearing none, Director Huddleston, take it away.
Sounds good. This is my last section here. So Like I said, a quick update on the external audit, just to reground this group. We have our internal auditors, like I just mentioned. We have our external auditors. The external auditors are the ones who come in and take a look at our financial statements and provide assurance that what we're reporting within our financial statements is materially correct. So the CPA firm Weaver completed their audit of our fiscal year 2023 to 2024 financial statements. So just as a reminder, May of 2024 was when that fiscal year ended. It takes them several months to do the audit. Now they have finalized it, and a copy of the audit report is included in your executive committee packet. The financial audit resulted in the bar receiving an unmodified opinion, which is a clean opinion, and it's the best financial audit opinion that we can receive. So nice job to the team on all their hard work reporting our finances correctly. Also included in our executive committee packet are 2 reports from Weaver titled State Bar of Texas Governance Letter and Management Letter. Auditing standards require these reports, and their purpose is to summarize the required communications about the audit process and results to those charged with governance, which is the Audit and Finance Committee. The report states that Weaver did not encounter any difficulties during the audit and that they did not have any disagreements with management. The auditors did note one area for improvement that I wanted to call out in their management letter regarding recording unearned revenues for yearly subscriptions, specifically related to the Texas Bar Books Fund. They noted that an audit adjustment was required to report $157,000 of unearned revenue on the balance sheet, and subscription sales were overstated by about $16,000 for fiscal year 2024. Management recorded all the necessary adjustments and is addressing this recommendation for improvement. And just for this group's knowledge, that is very immaterial to the overall financial statements, which is a good thing. The ending audited fund balance of the general fund as of May 31st, 2024 was $28,665,029, an increase of about $2.3 million from the prior year. It should be noted that the audited fund balance for the general fund did not change from the unaudited statements provided to the board in September, which is another good thing. Almost done here. The auditors and CFO presented these financial statements and audit reports to us, the Audit and Finance Committee, yesterday, January 8th. The committee will recommend that the board accept the financial audit report at its January meeting. And with that, President Benish, that concludes my report. Happy to answer any questions on the external audit if anybody has any.
Thank you very much, Director Huddleston. Let me open that up. If there are any questions or comments from any of the directors regarding the financial audit for fiscal year ending May 31, 2024, as just described by Director Huddleston. Hearing none, thank you very much, Director Huddleston. There are no action items coming to us from the Audit and Finance Committee. And so with that, we will hear from Stuart Colburn, who is Chair of the Minimum Continuing Legal Education Committee. Chair Coleman, take it away.
Thank you, and greetings to everyone. Sorry we couldn't meet in person today, but I do have 2 items in my report to you. The first item is regarding some MCLE changes to our regulations. In September of last year, the board and the executive committee and the board granted MCLE credit of 3 hours for attorneys who coach or judge in moot court or mock trial competitions. This was at the request and suggestion of some judges and some attorneys, and it was studied by our committee, and we all agreed, and we made the recommendation. The board, executive committee, and the board of directors went ahead and approved that. Right after that, we got numerous responses from the MCLE committee did. Many people have expressed their thanks, but several people said, hey, wait a minute, we'd like to expand the list besides just mock trial and moot court. We received a letter from one of the committees, the ADR committee, and an attorney, Andrew Token, secretary of that, indicated their section had voted unanimously to recommend and supported the inclusion of other types of legal competitions that are listed in the proposed regulation changes and are in your materials. This is such as arbitration, mediation, and transactional competitions. We committee once again met with this recommendation, and we studied it. And on our committee meeting of December 2nd of 2024, we looked at it. We looked at what other states did. We looked at the reasons why we have this committee allowed for 3 hours for moot court and mock trial competitions. We thought it was a very good idea. We expanded upon it a little bit, made it work within the provisions that we had. And so we voted unanimously to make the recommendations that these other types of legal competitions also receive up to 3 hours of MCLE hours. In other words, the attorneys in these new competitions would have the same opportunity to earn the credit as moot court and mock trial attorneys. In making this recommendation, we study competitions available to which Texas attorneys are currently participating as judges or judging in. I'm not going to name you the entire list. It's in the materials. I can certainly read a portion of them if you want. These are sponsored by such organizations as the ABA and several Texas law schools. What we would like to do is it will be the same as the moot court and mock trial in that the attorney is responsible for submitting a certificate that's created by the MCLE department from the sponsoring organization that proves that the attorney was participating as a judge or as a coach. This is a proposed MCLE regulation change. It's just that. It's not a change to the actual MCLE rules, and therefore it only needs the board of directors approval. With that, on behalf of the MCLE committee, I request that there be a motion that the executive committee of the board of directors vote to recommend that the board approve the proposed changes to section 2.1.2 of the MCLE regulations to include a maximum of 3 hours of MCLE credit for those attorneys who coach or judge arbitration, alternate dispute resolution, mediation, transactional, and negotiation competitions as set forth in section 2.12E and 2.12F of the MCLE recommendations. We also recommend that the changes become effective upon approval of the board of directors. I do have a second action item. Would you like me to address that now? It's a housekeeping measure, or would you like to address this one now?
Well, tell you what, Chair Colburn, because the second one is not related to this one, why don't we go ahead and seek action at this time? Chair Colburn has, on behalf of the MCLE committee, requested approval of the MCLE committee's recommendation to change section 2.1.2 of the Texas MCLE regulations on accredited CLE activities to include credit for attorneys participating in arbitration, alternative dispute resolution, mediation, transactional, client counseling, and negotiation competitions. Because Chair Colburn does not sit as a member of this executive committee, we will require on this action item a motion and a second. And I will open the mic for any motion or second.
So Director Quadros, so move.
Director Quadros moves.
Second.
By
Aaron Tobin, Director Tobin.
Director Tobin seconds. We've received a motion and a second, excuse me. Are there any comments or questions, any discussion from directors regarding the motion on the table? Receiving none, we will move to a vote. All in favor, so indicate by saying aye.
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 And any opposed by saying nay. The motion passes. Back to you, Chair Colburn, for your second action.
Thank you. The second truly is a housekeeping measure. The Texas Center for Legal Ethics changed the name of the mandatory course that all licensed Texas attorneys are required to take. But the name that's currently in the MCLE regulations is outdated and needs to change in order to reflect this new name. The new name of the course is the Justice James A. Baker Guide to the Ethics and Professionalism in Texas. On behalf of the MCLE committee, I request that there be a motion that the executive committee of the board of directors vote to recommend that the board approve the proposed changes to section 1.3 of the MCLE regulations to change the name of the required course that Texas licensed lawyers need to take from the old name, the Guide to the Basics of Law Practice, to the new name, Justice James A. Baker Guide to Ethics and Professionalism in Texas. We also recommend that the changes become effective upon approval by the board of directors. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Chair Colburn. Chair Colburn is seeking approval of the MCLE's committee's recommendation to amend section 1.3 of the Texas MCLE regulations to change the title of the Texas Center for Legal Ethics required course from, quote, the Guide to the Basics of Law Practice, close quote, to the current title of, quote, the Justice James A. Baker Guide to Ethics and Professionalism, close quote. We will need a motion and a second in connection with this request.
Director Tobin, so moved.
Director Tobin moves.
Second.
By
Director Huddleston, second.
Director Huddleston seconds. Is there any discussion, any comments or questions from directors?
I have a comment,
Director
Mr.
Stafford.
President, Chair Stafford. I had the great privilege of working with Justice Baker at a firm that was called Hughes and Luce many years ago, and he was 2 doors down from me, and he was a great resource, and he was a model of professionalism. So I believe this is a well-deserved motion for a very diligent and well-respected attorney.
Well said, Chair Stafford. I could not agree more. Any other committee member wish to say anything? And with that, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 And any opposed by saying nay. The motion carries. Thank you very much, Chair Colburn. Appreciate it. Next up, we will hear from Director Liz Cantu, who is Chair of the Ad Hoc Committee on Selection of At-Large Directors.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. So it is my pleasure to present the at-large director report to you. There are 4 at-large director positions on the State Bar Board. At the annual meeting in June, there will be 2 open positions, and there is a process in the board policy to fill them. Chris Pineda and I will be rolling off of the board as at-large directors, and it honestly has been such a sincere privilege to be here with you for almost 3 years and to serve as the chair of the ad hoc committee to select the at-large members. December 2nd was the deadline to submit nominations to the State Bar, and this year there were 6 nominations received for consideration. The ad hoc committee is meeting January the 16th to review the nomination packets. The committee will conduct these interviews in February at the Law Center and will recommend 4 nominees to President Steve Benish for consideration. Of those 4, President Benish will choose 2 nominees and will submit the appointments to the board for consideration at the April board meeting. Our committee looks forward to taking on this important task this year. The other committee members of the committee are Steve Toscano, Brittany Harrison, Karen Locke, and Rudy Mateer. That concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Director Cantu. There are no action items being brought forth by this ad hoc committee, and therefore I will open it up for any questions or comments to Director Cantu from this committee. Hearing none, thank you again, Director Cantu, and we will move on to the Honorable Jerry Bullard, Section Representative to the Board, for his report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Once again, thank you for the honor of being able to present a general report on behalf of the section representatives to the board committee. My report will be brief, and it's really more of a preview of coming attractions than it is in terms of activity for specific sections. On February 21, the Council of Chairs will be meeting at the Texas Law Center. And at that meeting, 2 new section representatives to the board will be elected, one from a large section and one from a medium section. Nominations for those positions are currently open and will close on February 3rd, 2025. The Hispanic Issues section will be requesting a name change. The Issues section has proposed changing their name to the Hispanic Lawyer section. This proposal is working its way through the process, and we anticipate that this board will hear more about it at the April meeting. At the upcoming meeting, board meeting in later this month, I plan to spotlight some of the excellent pro bono projects that our sections have been working on over the past year and continue to work on. So I look forward to preparing that report and presenting it later this month. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Judge Bullard. Judge Bullard brings no action items to us today, so I will open it up for any questions or comments to him. Hearing none, thank you again, Your Honor. And with that, we will now hear from Supreme Court Justice Evan Young with a report from the court.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here because Justice Lehrman has a much better place to be. Her third grandchild was born yesterday in Houston, and she is there playing the role that grandmothers from time immemorial have played, and she's doing it with great aplomb. We've seen some pictures. It is a beautiful young child. I've told her that my wife and I would be very pleased to take that baby off her son and daughter-in-law's hands, but the offer has not yet been accepted. So we'll send our very best wishes to Justice Lehrman, who I think will watch this later. She had planned to be here by Zoom, but some of the duties of grandmother actually have become more complicated than even she had anticipated. The court has gone through some interesting times of late. I've been a justice now for 3 years, 1 month, and 29 days. And for 3 years, 1 month, and 27 of those days, I was the junior justice. And then on Tuesday, we received a new justice, Justice James P. Sullivan, and a new Chief Justice, Justice Jimmy Blacklock. And I stepped out just a moment ago because Chief Justice Blacklock called, and there are probably only 3 people I would have done that for: Mrs. Young, Justice Lehrman, or Chief Justice Blacklock. And he said, I told him where I was, and he said to give you all his best wishes and to tell you all Happy New Year. So Happy New Year on behalf of the new Chief Justice. It's a strange time for us to not have Chief Justice Hecht. We had a good month. One upside of the governor keeping us in suspense for a little bit longer than maybe had been anticipated was that this whole past month was able to be spent with people really reflecting on what it meant to have Nathan Hecht as a member of our court for 36 years to the day, January 1st, 1989, until stroke of midnight on New Year's Eve this year. And I can tell you in December, there were several times when I would come into the court on Saturdays or Sundays, and the parking garage that we have over across the street was completely empty except for one vehicle when I got there, and it was the Chief Justice's SUV. So we miss him a lot. I miss him a lot. He's not really given himself much of a rest. He's in North Carolina this week teaching an access to justice course at High Point Law School there, which he promised to do long ago. So unfortunately, he was not able to be with us for the new swearings in or for yesterday's 15th Court of Appeals investiture, to his great regret. But we expect him to continue to play a large role in the life of the court because he has knowledge and experience that transcends all the rest of us put together. But we're very excited to have Chief Justice Blacklock step up. I've known him for more than 2 decades. We were in law school together, and Justice Sullivan come in, who brings almost boundless energy. The governor said at his swearing in, look, I know there's a lot of hard workers among the other 8 of you, but I can promise you this, none of you will work as hard or work as late as Justice Sullivan. And his wife was standing right there, and her face did not express the same pleasure at that statement that perhaps might be anticipated by the new justice. But he is a hard worker, and I've known him for about 15 years as a very good friend. I think people of Texas will get their money's worth out of him. It's not just the meal reimbursements that haven't been updated in a long time, but judicial salaries haven't for a long, not quite that long, since the mid-'80s. Justice Sullivan, I think, is going to be working at below minimum wage when you take his hours that I expect him to provide divided by what the people of Texas will pay him. So we'll stand by and see. I don't have a whole lot else to report other than you might notice that on December 31st, a lot of cases went out, much more than usual. And that was because we knew that as a matter of constitutional law, the Chief Justice would lose his judicial authority at the stroke of midnight. And so in order to maximize the benefit that he'd provide us, why his car was there all those times, it could have been a nice, easy coasting out for him, but he wanted to work and work and work. And so we were able, with some degree of exhaustion, it wasn't quite the restful Christmas that some Christmases are, but we got a lot out, and that will be good because with the new court, with the new legislative session, all that's happening, having more cases in the rearview mirror than before us will allow us to get our work done more expeditiously. So we'll do our best to do all of that. We'll see what the legislature will bring and drop on all of our plates this coming session. So it'll be an exciting next year, an exciting time to be on the State Bar Board, I imagine, because some of those things will directly affect this group as well. So if you have any questions You have to say that. You have to say, if anybody have any
I
questions.
am not trumping you.
No,
so
well,
you're right.
anybody has any, I'm always willing to answer, but otherwise we'll move on to whatever President Benish has next.
All right.
All right.
Thank you very much, Justice Young. It's much appreciated. As I was preparing to move from president-elect to president, I sat down to meet with Executive Director Affel about what were some of the events that would be important to attend during my year as president. I had planned for months to attend the Texas-Michigan game at the Big House in Ann Arbor, along with friends who had also been planning for months to go with us. And when I sat down and was mentioning that as a weekend that I had blocked out, Executive Director Affel very politely said, "No, I don't think you are going to the Texas-Michigan game. That is the weekend of the Texas Supreme Court Historical Society's annual dinner. And this will be Chief Justice Hecht's last such dinner to attend." And I will tell you, it was a difficult moment for me, but I would not have traded that evening to celebrate Chief Justice Hecht and the other justices of the court for anything. And I will tell everyone present, as I have told others, the high point, at least thus far, and I suspect it'll be the same answer by June when I pass the gavel or pass this responsibility to President-elect Vargas. My favorite memory, the high point of my service as president, is the fact that my first 6 months as such overlap with the last 6 months of the illustrious Chief Justice Nathan Hampton. And so we're honored by that. Okay, moving on. Thank you very much, Justice Young. That's appreciated. We will now move on to a report from Texas Young Lawyers Association President Hisham Masri.
Thank you, President Benish. And howdy, y'all. Happy New Year. Wish I was there in person with y'all. I'm currently sitting in College Station in preparation for TYLA's third quarterly board meeting and in retreat from the weather in DFW. So I've seen pictures. The snow looks great. My kids are enjoying it, but I'm glad to be down in College Station. So I'm going to continue the trend of apologizing for the lack of professional attire. I brought the blazer, but I forgot the tie. I had planned to wear a maroon tie to this meeting. And when I was packing my bag, my wife had even reminded me to pack it and I'd completely forgotten. So unfortunately, that's not with me. It's also not lost on me that we're going to have President Benish with us in College Station for our TYLA board meeting and Mrs. Cotton Bowl. We are so grateful for your partnership and your work in helping TYLA throughout the year. I do wish the Longhorns the best of luck against Ohio State. I'm confident they're going to win. So hook 'em horns. So at this quarterly board meeting that's coming up, TYLA's nomination committee, chaired by our very own MIA past president Laura Pratt, will identify our candidates to run for TYLA president in the upcoming election. If you see or hear from them, I'm just going to humbly request your hospitality and willingness to work with them. Like the state bar candidates, they put their heart and all into this. They are incredible ambassadors of our profession and of our organization. And please welcome them into your offices. Please welcome them into your cities. And we look forward to putting forward 2 great candidates for this upcoming election. I'll keep my report brief as far as updates from TYLA, as I know we're nearing the end of the meeting. Your board has been busy this past quarter. Since we last saw you in September, we've had our board meeting in November in San Antonio. We have one this weekend. We've made tremendous progress on all of our projects, candidly. I'm going to mention a few notable ones. One, we interviewed Richard Miles. He was an exoneree, a recent exoneree in Texas. And the reason we interviewed him was to expand on a project from about a decade ago called TYLA's And Justice for All project. As an exoneree, he's an incredible individual with an unfortunate story about how our system of justice really failed for this man. And as an added benefit, we even interviewed the lawyer who many of y'all may know, Professor Cheryl Watley, who represented him in his exoneration. And I believe the combination of his interview with that of the professor really brings a lot of value to our profession and for ourselves. So I'm excited to share this update, this updated resource with you a bit later on this year. We've also created a draft of our Teen Court guide, and it's nearing its publication date. This added resource will provide really much needed guidance to municipalities about how to create administrative teen court programs. It's a program that's near and dear to my heart as someone who pursued a legal education, at least in part, due to the teen court program in Plano. We've recorded and continue to schedule additional episodes of our Pathways to Success podcast. If you haven't already checked those out, they're an incredible resource for young lawyers about, and really any lawyer, about how to find success in the practice of law, regardless of what that avenue or what that path looks like for you. Our paper chase competition is already well underway. We've already graded numerous briefs for this annual writing competition in partnership with Baylor Law School. We've continued to appreciate their partnership throughout the years in this competition. And we continue to see incredible writing out of this competition year after year, and a worthwhile endeavor. Speaking of competitions, our national trial competition is gearing up for its 50th anniversary competition in Houston, Texas. If you're in the area or would like to join us, the competition is from April 1st to the 5th. It should be an incredible occasion while we celebrate this milestone birthday for it. Next, we've scheduled several events with local affiliates throughout Texas. TYLA is really making an endeavor to work directly with our local affiliates and have our directors and have our board reach directly to the membership throughout this state. If you see an event in your locale, then please join us. We currently have events planned in San Antonio, Houston, Dallas, Tyler, Corpus Christi, and Fort Worth. Last but certainly not least, we've made incredible progress on our Texas Law Student Hub. This is by the grace of a grant from the Texas Bar Foundation. We're excited to unveil this program later this spring that will assist prospective and current law students find success in pursuing a legal education. I'm happy to entertain any questions about any of those projects or anything else that TYLA is doing. Otherwise, thank you, and I look forward to seeing you all in person soon.
Are there any questions, comments for President Musri? I will say that Hisham and I often refer to our relationship as a Batman and Robin relationship. And sometimes I'm Batman and sometimes he's Batman. But the bottom line of that reference is that we have each other's back. And so, President Musri, I want to tell you, I've got your back. I have the perfect tie in my closet, and I will bring it to you tomorrow for the game.
You got it.
All right.
Thank you, President.
Okay, we've got that on record. We are now going to have a report from the General Counsel for the State Bar, Ross Fisher.
Thank you. Nothing specific to report. Been working with in-house legal counsel Chris Ritter and his team as issues come up, especially those that impact the board, most of which will be discussed in closed session. So that's really all I have.
All right, thank you very much. Ross, are there any comments or questions from directors for our General Counsel? All right, with that, I believe we're going to move to our Chief Legal Counsel, Chris Ritter. And do I move us into closed session at this point, or do you have anything you'd like to say before we move in?
I did want to mention something very briefly.
I yield.
I just wanted to announce publicly something that I'm very proud of. And today, Amanda Engel, who's on my team, is here. Lowell Brown, who's the in charge of communications here and an associate executive director. Kaylin and Trey, I just wanted to express thanks to them for how well our process has worked with our review of communications. We've reviewed over 6,000 and everyone that submitted them. I mean, they email conreview@texasbar.com, and our turnaround has been, generally speaking, a few hours. And it's because we have a queue that's working well with communications, and it's given us the ability to comply really well, fully comply with what the Boudreaux case asked us to do, and which is also giving us the opportunity to learn a lot about how the bar and things that we didn't know about the bar, and for me and our legal team to discuss those with our leadership. So I just wanted to say that publicly. And at this point, President, I'd like to move to go into closed session to talk about litigation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ritter. It is now 11:19, and the State Bar Board of Directors Executive Committee will recess the open meeting and reconvene in closed session as authorized by Texas Government Code 551.071 for the purpose of consulting with legal counsel regarding Boudreaux versus Louisiana State Bar Association, Alford versus State Bar of Texas, Turnbull versus the Commission for Lawyer Discipline et al., Robbins versus the State Bar of Texas et al., Philip Ireland versus the State Bar of Texas et al., Winningham versus SBOT et al., and Jacob Barreras versus the State Bar of Texas, and legal matters related to 1415 Lavaca, and as authorized by Texas Government Code, Section 551.074, to deliberate regarding personnel matters. With the exception of board members, board liaisons, and section representatives, all other individuals, including non-essential staff and other guests, please excuse yourselves from this closed session. We will notify the public when we are 5 minutes out from returning to open session. And with that, we move to closed session. It is now 11:33 and the open session of the Board of Directors Executive Committee meeting will now reconvene. During the closed session, only matters relating to consultation with legal counsel regarding Boudreaux versus Louisiana State Bar Association, Alford versus the State Bar of Texas, Turnbull versus the Commission for Lawyer Discipline et al., Robbins versus State Bar of Texas et al., Philip Ireland versus State Bar of Texas et al., Winningham versus SBOT et al., and Jacob Barreras versus State Bar of Texas, and legal matters relating to 1415 Lavaca were discussed. No action was taken in closed session. With that, there being no further agenda items, I will give any of the committee members present an opportunity for any comment or thoughts. Hearing none, I will go ahead and announce the time of our adjournment. I declare the meeting adjourned at 11:35 a.m. Thank you all for your time and attendance. For those of you who are facing inclement weather and perhaps hazardous travel, please be safe. And we look forward to seeing you here in Austin later this month for our board meeting. We stand adjourned.